A clever woman keeps persuading her wealthy husband to drive near the river so she can kill him. The man falls for her manipulation and jumps into a river filled with crocodiles. Lily stares at the calm water and feels secretly delighted. Once her plan succeeds, all the billions in wealth will be hers. But who could have known that the fool suddenly pops up from behind the boat? In reality, he only wanted to scare her as a joke. There was a smile on Lily's lips, but in her heart, the intention to kill him still remained. When the first plan failed, she told the man to prove his love by jumping into the water from a height. How could the man refuse her sweet words? He thought it would be easy. Standing before her hopeful eyes, he quickly reached the edge of the cliff. After taking a deep breath, he gathered his courage and jumped. A long time passed, but the man didn't come back up. Lily thought to herself that this time the job was surely done. Still, to be safe, she checked several times and even pretended to be deeply worried. In reality, she was going crazy with happiness inside. But before she could celebrate for long, she realized a huge problem. She was still alone on the boat, and she didn't know how to drive a speedboat. What should she do now? After thinking for a moment, she decided to call the police for help, but the area was so remote that there was no signal at all. Panicking, she shouted loudly toward both sides of the riverbank, but even after screaming for a long time, no one responded. Now she truly panicked and began crying uncontrollably like a child. But crying wouldn't help. To survive, she had no choice but to try driving the speedboat herself. She started the engine, and the anchor came up smoothly. It seemed quite easy, but what happened next nearly cost her life. The speedboat went completely out of control, charging around like a mad bull. The sudden chaos scared her so badly that her mind went completely blank. At that moment, all she wanted was to get away from the terrifying control panel. But if the boat stayed out of control, it wouldn't take long before it crashed into nearby rocks. The simplest solution was to stop it somehow. She rushed back and yanked the key out forcefully, but unfortunately, the key slipped and fell into the river. The speedboat stopped, but another disaster was waiting. She looked up and saw a waterfall not far ahead. Thankfully, she noticed it in time. Otherwise, she wouldn't even have realized when her life ended. She didn't want to stay on the boat even for a second longer. She quickly gathered her belongings and prepared to jump into the river to save herself. But just as she was about to jump, she remembered she couldn't swim. There was a solution, though. A life buoy was lying on the deck. In her panic, without thinking, she threw it straight into the river. The very next moment, she regretted it. This wasn't how a life buoy was meant to be used. She watched helplessly as it drifted farther away from her. When she turned back, the waterfall was extremely close now. There was no other option left. She grabbed her belongings, rushed into the boat cabin, curled up in a corner, and waited, trembling, for fate to decide her outcome. Luckily, the waterfall wasn't very high. Soon, the boat was carried along and crashed onto the riverbank, saving her life. When she regained her senses, the first thing she did was check her phone. But unfortunately, there was still no signal. The feeling of helplessness completely broke her. She screamed toward the jungle, venting all her frustration. Once she calmed down, she realized she couldn't give up like this. Instead of sitting there waiting to die, it would be better to enter the jungle and test her luck. Just like a contestant on a wild survival show, it didn't seem impossible. In fact, the more she thought about it, the more exciting it felt. And with that, she got to work.